welcome to the Sounds of Bartok's fan. Just kidding. All right. Let me switch my camera. Welcome to this week's What the Heck. We have Robbie and Bartok. How big and awkward is it? How big and how's everybody doing? Before I get into chat questions, I'm all over the place today. How are y'all doing? I haven't talked to you in a couple weeks.
Take it, Robbie.
I'm doing great. I'm looking forward to. I'm actually going to go to a live modular synthesizer event this weekend, and then next week I'm traveling and going out of state. And but I'm a little warm, but I am drinking some bubbly water to keep me cool. So that's how I'm doing.
Great. What about you, Bartok? I think it's warm everywhere, but I think Bartok has it pretty bad too.
It's warm, and I wasn't allowed to have my fan on, so it's even warmer now. But doing all right. Have my water with me. I'm jealous. I wish I could go to that show, Robbie, but doesn't align for that day. It should be a good show, though.
Yeah, I'm also jealous. A live show is just like, I don't know. I haven't been to one in a long time. That'd be cool. I'm also doing pretty good, and also leaving town in about a little over a week to go hang out with a bunch of nerds.
That's fun too. I've always wanted to go to that, and just never had the opportunity. So
it's yeah, I can't wait. I'm stoked. I think you would enjoy it very much, and you would probably understand more than I do. That said, there will be no What the Heck next week. I won't be anywhere near a computer that could stream gracefully. I mean, I guess I could try on my Windows PC. I don't know about that. Anyway, there won't be one next week unless someone else wants to pick it up, which is cool. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. Also been like totally avoiding my synthesizer lately, not because I don't want to. I've just been like very preoccupied with other things, getting ready for that travel. Like writing some stuff for contests, trying to do contests. I always do poorly. Like, I'm terrible. I don't know why I participate other than I lose badly. Because I'm good at the intro stuff. Like, here's how to convert hex to base 35 or something like that. But like once you get to like how do you get how do you record like RF and control a Barbie remote control car playback, like that kind of stuff. I'm like, you could.
But it's a
wait.
good learning experience, yeah.
Oh yeah, I just learned a crap ton.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. But what was I doing recently that's sort of relevant? I don't even remember. I was looking at some sound waves. Anyway, when I have been messing with it, I've been getting weird with stuff. Like I don't know, weird for me. Like this is kind of weird.
What the heck is that? That is a weird sound.
Right? Isn't it? It's it's like I think eight. No, what it is a held note, a single held note, coming from this oscillator, going in the VCA I have set to like a gate loop, really fast, so you're getting some distortion there. Then I have that sound going into actual distortion into a filter that is modulated by the Evil Eye sequencer. So,
Hey, let me ask you about that actual distortion. What does your thing do to distort it? Does it just overdrive it, or does it wavefold it to hell, or what does it do?
I don't have any wavefold. Well, I have a wavefolder halfway built, but it's just the Proco rat distortion, which is just an overdrive, if I remember right. So it's clipping it.
Cool. Squaring it off a bit. Yeah, I love that. I've been doing a lot of experimentation with with what they call bit crushing, which is it's kind of the wrong name because you're not affecting the bit depth, you're affecting the sample rate. What
Right.
you're doing is by reducing the sample rate using a sample and hold, you basically introduce what's called foldback distortion, which is when you have frequencies above the Nyquist frequency. It's technical, but the short version is you get this interesting complex harmonics and complex overtones, and it sounds real crunchy and weird. And usually in digital audio, it's something that you want to avoid because it's distortion. But you can do it with your modular, and it makes a boring sound neat. And I've been doing a lot of experimentation with that.
I agree. I very much like the bit crushing on the data bender that has two different bit crushing types, and the problem is I usually have that hooked up into my drums like I probably do now. And I don't
drums
often
sound
do it on
awesome.
drums, but they do
Drums
sound
sound
awesome,
awesome.
especially like a longer decay on the kick. Just with that bit crushing is rad.
I love to bit crush the kick, and I love to bit crush the snare because suddenly you can make it this. The other thing you can do is you put it through a low pass filter, so you get this really bottom heavy sound, right? And then you bit
Yeah.
crush the fuck out of it, and you get this explosive punch of a
Yeah.
snare.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Snares are fun. I mean, white noise is fun, and snares are white noise extreme. I've also been playing a lot with this like triple Atari Punk console. It's the Atari Punk console thingy that just only makes the worst sounds. But I really like the sounds it makes. Like they're not like pleasant on their own. Like if I just hit, like that's not pleasant. That's like.
But it sounds like Atari. I don't really know the Atari sound chip that well, but I am aware that a lot of Atari games have that unique noise character, and when they do play pitches, they have this weird out of tune quality.
Yeah, so this isn't. I mean, this isn't even using an Atari chip. It's just called that because the sounds it makes are so Atari-like. They're so similar to that Atari sound. But it is really fun to like. I've been using it almost as like a white noise and things, but like. But like you can almost hear like it almost has a bit crushy effect, so that's why I thought of that. Like it almost
Absolutely.
sounds like it's bit crushed.
Sounds great.
And that's because it's basically three Atari Punk consoles hardwired in a way that can like modulate each other.
Yeah, I was gonna say they basically FM each other.
Yeah.
Right.
which
big time.
is just insanity already. Wow. What a
Like
crazy.
it's already a noisy, unpleasant beast. I have a little one outside that's a single. I should get that for comparison one day, but yeah, it's something I've been using a lot. I think it's pretty cool. It sounds very Morse codey. It turns out I like that sound. Yeah.
Yeah, I've thought a lot about if I wanted my modular setup to sound like chiptune stuff, and I kind of came to the conclusion that if I was gonna do it, I would want to like actually use a sound chip from an actual console. So I
Yeah.
I decided not to get something like there's a module called Chips with a
Right.
Z, um, and it's not for me. That's not my style. I would want if I was going to do that, I would want to get like an actual NES sound chip in a module form.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean the folks that have done that have done it. So there's a handful of projects I can think of. Like there's the like the Mega FM and the that uses the I think the Sega FM chips, and then there's like anytime you see Game Boy oscillators, those have that particular sound, and those are actually really high on my list. Like I would love to make some Game Boy oscillators eventually. That's sort of like a pricey DIY project for me to acquire some Game Boys, but yeah.
Yeah, the Game Boy sound chip is cool because it's kind of a wavetable thing for two of the voices, I think.
Yeah, and there's a couple of ways that I've seen it done. There's one that like you're using the Game Boy's sound chip itself, and then there's another way where you're essentially like frequency modulating the clock rate of the Game Boy,
Ooh, that's interesting.
which is cool because then you get some serious glitchy effects on the screen while you're doing it.
I have never. So Jamie Riley says BitRaiser does bit and sample rate reduction. I've never even heard of that module. I'll have to look into it. That could be cool. I'm not super interested in bit rate reduction just because that just increases the noise floor, which I got enough analog gear that I have plenty of noise floor. But the sample rate stuff, I think, creates an interesting character.
It's a Roland module.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna share the screen so that we can all see it.
A Roland,
Yes, the BitRaiser.
like, and they
BitRaiser
made
is by
a.
Roland.
Is it Eurorack or is it like a guitar pedal?
No, it's actually
No, it's Eurorack.
I didn't even know they made Eurorack until right this second.
Yeah, bring that bad boy up.
And oh, I just have to hit the on the screen thing. There we go. Yeah, so that's the BitRaiser. I just zoomed in on the side, so it's bad quality, but it's good enough for YouTube. But yeah, it's cool. Let's see, you got sample rate, bit down, resonance. Oh, you had me at resonance, and low pass, high pass filter. Cool.
Wow. Yeah, I noticed that whenever I do bit crushing, or to do that distortion, you absolutely want to pass it through a low pass filter because it gets super noisy, super quick, and you're gonna if you don't filter it, you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I don't think you can ever have too many filters. Specifically low pass filters.
You're cheering to the pep squad. Yeah, low pass, all the things.
Yeah, I mean, high pass is rad. I actually am debating. I'll probably build a high pass filter at one thing and put it like at the end of my, like at the end of my, like after my mixer, like after my modulars baked mixer.
I love the sound effect of, like, for interest, like turning the cutoff up on a high pass filter on the entire mix.
Yeah.
And then like once it gets to just only the high end, then you bring it back in and make it drum and bass or something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly why I would put it at the end of just end of chain. It's perfect for that. I actually I'm amazed that, like, if I was gonna make a drum machine, A, it would always have a filter. B, it would probably have one of those filters that can go left for low, right for high pass.
Yeah,
similar
DJ
to
style,
yeah.
quote unquote.
Because even just doing the drums has a similar effect, but end of chain is the way to go.
I have a module that I'm not using because I don't have enough room for it in my tiny 300 HP case. Um, but there's a module that I have called Golden Master from
Yeah,
Endorphins, and that one you can independently cut. I use it as an end of chain EQ, and you can cut the highs, the mids, and the lows in a very dramatic way.
that's cool. Yeah, that's one very much on my list. When I get my stuff together later this summer and build a Eurorack case. Um,
I want to hear Robbie's best tips for drums in the case.
probably his best tips.
I can, I can talk you through it. Okay. First tip: get BIA, get Basimilus Terratas Alter. You can do an entire drum kit. It can sound like a real drum kit. It can sound like a glitch drum kit. You can do everything. Um, Tip number two: this is for a kick drum. It's very simple. You put an envelope into a sine wave or a square wave or a triangle wave, whatever. Oh, look at that. That's good for triggers. That's Sweet 16. Tell me about that module. I've never used it.
Yeah, so I feel like when we're talking drums, there's a couple of ways that people do it, right? And my quick tip for drums is to get a trigger sequencer, and I really like this Sweet 16 by Robau. You have 16 trigger outs. You've got a reset, a MIDI, and then this is play. So you can send this to like a clock in, or you could send a clock in to here, and so you can control it with another sequencer. And basically you could program all the steps. On here you have 64 steps, so you would cycle through pages, but if you wanted, 4 to the floor, you would just do 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can divide these, so this could be on beat or eighth notes or 16ths, 30 seconds, whatever. And for me, I mean, this is, I don't know how many HP it is off the top of my head, but it's small enough where if you're looking to do this in a case, I would do something like this along with BIA. And then if you don't mind using, drum samples, the Erica Synths, the Pico drums are great because you get 2 samples per device. And the way I started was BIA and then 2 of those Picos. So that right there gave me 5 different drum sounds that I could play off of.
Let me ask you something about that Sweet 16. Can you do like probability stuff? Like, can you do like this thing only has a 50% chance of triggering or 75% or something like that?
I don't remember about doing probability. I want to say no because that doesn't sound familiar. I know you can do some swing.
Oh, that's good.
But yeah, I don't think it can do probability. I may be wrong. It's been a while since I've really dug deep into it. But and the other thing is you can only save like 1 memory slot basically. So what I was doing for the longest time is, since I only had the BIA, and then I actually had 2 Pico drums and 1 2 HP hat. So that gave me an open closed. It gave me 4 drums, and then the BIA that was 7. So I used the top 8 section with 1 pattern, and then the bottom 8 for another, and that's kind of how I tricked it, where I would program something different here, and I could just move those and change what I was using, and that kind of allowed me to have 2 patterns saved for performance.
Yeah, you had enough channels.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What would you say is like an ideal, like what are the essential drums? Like if you're just gonna have your go-to drum sounds, like what would you have?
I mean, I think of it in terms of like a drum kit,
Yeah.
So you'd have a kick, a snare, a hi hat, open and close, and like a tom, something basic. I'm not really good in drums though, so that's how I think about it, and that's what I've done. But I don't have a strong drum background.
I don't have a strong drum background either, but I definitely think that I don't really have. I do have the mutant snare module, but that's the only module I have that's dedicated to like a drum sound, and I only use it as a snare drum about half the time, anyways.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
but I will say that um, the vibe that you create in a patch changes dramatically when you add a kick drum, because all of a sudden something that's super spacey and confusing and ambient, if you just put 4 kick drums on it, suddenly it becomes like something that you can bob your head to, and it's
Yeah.
amazing the transformation, and I love that.
Yeah. I think. I mean, my go-tos are kick drum and snare for exactly the reasons you described, Robbie. Like, but either one of those can completely change the feel of what's going on. Like the kick drum can now you have a heartbeat going to something that could have been spacey and a little harder to track in terms of like dancing.
yeah,
But like the snare drum, like if you want to add energy to something, instead of four to the floor kicks, put four to the floor snares, and you've got like instant energy in there. Um, and then open and close hats I like, because hats you can like close hats especially, you can sprinkle them in and modulate, and they just
I
add a
feel
lot
like
of
a
interest and energy.
I feel like a hi-hat sound you almost can't do it wrong. Just put in a
Yeah.
bunch of random like hi-hat sounds, and it
right.
sounds good.
I mean, when I'm doing the hi hat, very often, like if you look closely, if I've remembered to change the camera angle, I'm literally mashing the buttons roughly where it needs to go, and that's it. Like it doesn't even matter if I get them all or whatever. Like, yeah, it's hard to mess up hi hats, especially 16 notes or 8 notes or whatever. But
Hi-hats are the pizza of drums.
they're so good. But also, I think like another thing that I love is the way. So one of Schmooster's questions got me thinking about like, um, let's see, let me find the question again. It was like variations, like what are your tips for variations? So that got me thinking like, how do you like let's say you've got a sequence like locked into like 4 bars or 2 bars or something, and your sequencer is kind of annoying to iterate on for whatever reason or change patterns instantly. Like I found some really fun ways to sort of add significant variation. Like one thing is run your drums through an effect. Like I love overdrive because if you run it through like a mediocre overdrive pedal, or like I use the muff or the Proco Rat or whatever, but if I run it through there and like all of a sudden I crank up the kick drum's decay and hit the distortion button, almost all of my snares sort of like invert, like it completely changes the feel. So so effects are great for that, and that overdrive's only like the tip of the bucket. Like you can do all sorts of things, high pass bit crushing, like repeat stuff like Morphogene style or data bender style, like random iteration on drums. So like those are good ways to add variation on drums without changing the sequence.
Yeah, I love to do effects on drums. My go-to thing that I probably overuse is reverb on the snare. And specifically what I do is I have a toggle switch on my mixer, because I use an aux send for my reverb, that
Smart.
I can switch it from post fader to pre fader, which basically means that the aux send amount is 100%. So instead of getting, the volume's at like 25% on the fader, but basically I send 100% of that sound to the reverb, and I get this super massive snare drums. Yeah, it just goes on.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I've also heard like other folks doing something similar, but running I don't remember if they're side chaining or running the reverb sound itself through a VCA, to sort of like cut it off just a little bit or control it a little more, but that also adds a cool effect. I think like Dead Mouse and like those artists use that a ton in their tracks.
Gated reverb is a big thing. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's fun. So that's how I would do variation. Like that's how I do variations on drums.
Yeah, and then I would say another way to do it is to have some Logic modules.
Yes.
Yeah.
Logic modules. If you've got a sequencer that has the ability to switch patterns or add some randomness into it.
Yeah, I have another way that I have variations on my drum patterns. So I maybe you've heard of this song. It has over 1 billion views on YouTube. It's called "Take on Me" by a group called Aha.
I've never heard of it.
Well, in
please
case
don't sing it.
Yeah, let me sing you the intro. But anyway, so this song it has a very quintessential what people now think the 80s sounded like vibe to it. But there's a part where in the verse the drums switch from the normal full-time drum beat. They switch to like a halftime kind of beat where they go half as fast. And I heard that and I was like, you know what? That's awesome. So I'm going to do that always. So every time I make a drum pattern, which I usually use the variegate for, I do a second pattern that's almost identical, but just half as fast. And I can switch between the two, and it creates a ton of drama when I switch back and forth.
You know, I did that an absolute ton with the BeatStep Pro because it's so trivial to go half or like double speed. Like there's like a hotkey to do it. And it's awesome. I do it all the time. I don't do it as much with drums, but I do it more so with like synth sounds and things like that, because it's a similar effect with synth sounds. Like you go from like 16th notes to half notes. Like that makes a huge difference in the feel of what's happening. But yeah, I would love that feature in my sequencers. That, I mean, I do miss that a lot. I think that's epic. I think with one thing I'm jealous about some of the modular sequencers is that you could do something like have a clock divider in front of the sequencer that you could then like crank it down.
Yeah, on the Erica Synth Black sequencer, you can change individual channels to be half or 3/4 or 1/4 or 1/8.
Cool.
So you can get weird.
Yeah, but you can only multiply by 2.
You can only double it, yeah.
That's okay. I like multiples of 2. It's mostly what I write in. Triplets are for the hardcore who like fighting their sequencers 16 steps. I hate, you know what, that's actually one of my pet peeves, is every sequencer I've ever used, if you want to do triplets, like, you have to count a lot.
Yeah.
Like, if I make like an 8-bar sequence in here, like I've done it enough times where I roughly know where things are, but it's still very annoying, and it gets worse when you have more unusual note divisions, like 5/4 or something, 7/4.
Yeah, definitely a lot of math involved, and then for me, trial and error, trying to figure out where to put the reset signal, because sometimes that comes too early or too late, or it gets shifted.
Yeah. See, what I don't understand, like, let's look at my sequencer, because they're pretty much all the same or similar. So you've got this this friend here, and when it's playing on the steps...
Can you zoom in so it's just you, so it's even bigger?
Yeah. Let me zoom in. There's the button. Yeah, so you've got this. When I hit play, like, it'll go through the steps. Let's actually pick a different thing. Like, you'll see it's like it just goes through the steps, right? Like, it's pretty standard. I don't understand, like, why, if I'm in, I don't know, triplets, like 3/4, don't start the next bar here. Just end this one here and start the next bar on the next page. Like, if I'm paging through it, like, do that. Make it simple for me. I don't know. but that only works for dividing by anyway.
So you can't tell it to like not play steps or something like that.
Well,
Like
what
literally
happens?
skip over a step.
Yeah. So what happens is, let's do it on a track I'm not using. Yeah, and go to like signature 3/4, and right now I've got 1 bar, so like I can only fill up 1 bar worth of 3/4, so that's 12 steps and 16 notes. I can zoom in and do 8 notes, etc. But if I change the length, so if I change it to 2 bars, for example, and I duplicated it, the next bar is actually starting here on step 13 and then wraps up on 8. So that's what I mean by doing math.
Oh, the pages don't make yeah, it would be nice just if it just ignored those last 4 pads and start on the next page.
Right, that's what I'm saying, because it's much easier to track, especially with something like 3/4, when you get to like 5/4, where you have more steps than is visible on the grid. Like, it gets a little hairier, but I still think it would be nice, even if I had to hit this button more, like if it like stopped at the end of the sequence until I hit the next. Anyway, that's my pet peeve there. I get so lost. Like when I was in Polyrhythm Town for that New York Modular, that was I got so tired of counting pads. Like I
You're
knew
like, wait,
too.
am I on page 2 or page 3? It's like, oh man.
On 15, 16, or like those other, like I just had it down.
Yeah, I need to explore more of that. I'm using more and more of I have a Euclidean sequencer called DOT, which is kind of like grids, but it can only do Euclidean sequences and XOX style. So you can pick which individual triggers you want, but it doesn't have pre-programmed patterns like grids.
That's yeah.
But I've been experimenting with that, and if you send it, you can control the length manually on it. So if you set it to 6 or 12 or whatever, however many beats you want, you can get interesting patterns out of it. But I need to explore it more. There's so much more to do with it.
Yeah, there's like I found, because I have not studied music in any sense, but I've started to, like, the more I mess with polyrhythms, there's like sweet spots for each type of, well, not even polyrhythms, but different time signatures. There's like sweet spots for different time signatures. Like I really like 15, 16, but like every track I make sounds the same with 15, 16, because I'll do like 4 notes, 3 notes, 4, 4, or something like that. Like, and it works. It just feels like a little bit faster than so I kind of dig it. So that's one I particularly love. And like I think what was another one I used a lot, like 11 something. It's like Terminator, very like makes all your drums sound like the Terminator soundtrack. Yeah, so that's actually another way to get variety on your drums, is if you could change the sequence length to something that's not 4 or 16 or 8. Yeah. Polyrhythms.
Polyrhythms. How about that?
Do it.
Yeah.
Dare you. New release candidate 1.25 for the NerdSec. Yeah, don't talk to me about NerdSec. I'm so jealous of that module.
It's a really awesome module. It's like, to be honest, I imagine that it doesn't have the pads that the Pyramid does, but with that one exception, I think it just blows away the competition. It's so versatile. It's so amazingly, it can do so much.
It's an amazing, like, it's an amazing module. Yeah, I also, I'm really excited to try that style of sequencer. Like, I'm still waiting to get an LSDJ set up, but
on the Game Boy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to do it there. Like, it feels like a medium that I don't mind spending a lot of time staring at a little screen playing with it. Like, that's fine. And then I can use it to sequence other things too, which gets even cooler. So, like, yeah, I'm excited for it. Like I can go hang out on my couch and sequence stuff, and then come down here and see what it sounds like with big synths.
Have you ever looked at the Poly End tracker? It's like a standalone box that is a tracker.
I have, and like I know a few people that have it, and it's funny. I think it's just the same problem with all trackers. Like people either love it or hate it, and I think it's amazing. I think it's a very cool machine, especially like its sampling capabilities. Like if it had been out when I was looking for another sequencer like this pyramid, I probably would have it instead of the instead of the pyramid. Not that
Interesting.
it's better or worse. It's just like it's a very attractive machine with very clicky buttons.
And a nice big screen that it looks very nice. I haven't really interacted
Yeah.
with it much, but it looks like it would be a joy to use.
Yeah, and I am a sucker for aesthetics. Like the pyramid's an amazing machine, but I don't love, I really don't like pads. I think they're awful. Even I know there's touch sensitivity you can do with pads, or like how hard you hit can change the velocity, but to me that's completely useless, and they just get dusty and you have to take the whole thing apart to like prevent like double taps and stuff like that, which is a big deal on something that has a lot of hotkeys. And also as far as the screen goes, like it's an okay screen. It's very much like a backlit Game Boy screen, and I mean that like the original Game Boy, not like a new thing. It's not great. Like I would much rather see like an OLED screen on a modern machine.
Yeah, I think that's what's in the
Yeah,
Erica Synth Black sequencer, and I love the
yeah,
clicky knobs. That the knobs click, and you can depress the knobs to do things. And then there's sometimes where you can.
oh,
It does a lot. I love that thing.
yeah, the Rample has similar encoders. Or they have the detent, so they click when you rotate it, and you can click them in to select stuff. Yeah, those are pretty nice
Yeah,
encoders.
and it's a nice feel, you know. It's
Yes, yeah, I'm a sucker for all of that. So that's what I'm looking for. That's why I would like to try more sequencers in person at like a shop, just to like get a feel for like the buttons and stuff like that, because I think I'm over, like completely over pads at this point. I would like mechanical everything.
Yeah,
um,
there's something to be said for being there because it's such a personal thing. It's how do you want to touch it, and and you got to touch it to figure that out because you're not going to know, or you might make the wrong decision if you're not actually doing it. Like because I thought there's plenty of things you think you're going to love, and then you go and try it out, and you're like, well, that doesn't really do much for me.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I'm also thinking about like wear and tear. Like a lot of I've just had problems with machines with touchpads in the past. There are situations where I think they're really good, like a dedicated drum machine. Yeah, touchpads are fine. Like my fingers won't get sore after 10 minutes of finger drumming, even though I'm terrible at it, and you'll never hear me do that live. But it's fun to do. My partner has to hear me do that, where I'm like, I think I'm a synth lord, so I'm playing like the bass with one hand and the drums with the other, and I feel awesome, and none of it is in time. It's really horrible to listen to. uh, so I think there's a use case for them, but like not particularly with my use case. Um, Lollipop Tom? I don't know what that means. Crack cocaine. What are we talking about in chat? I turn away for 2 seconds.
yeah. Poop, crack, and lollipops.
Can't you time quantize?
Can
I don't have anything. Well, I mean, I think my sequencer can time quantize, but I don't have any. I mean, it does that by default because it doesn't. You.
let me let
I'm not
me
sure.
let
You
me
talk.
take this one. Yes, the Scorp does quantization, both rigid quantization, and there's like a human setting where you can like, if you've programmed it in, you can like sort of detune the quantization, like make it so it's less on the beat, for some variation. I find that when I like hit record and play a sequence and then I turn the quantizer on, it, and this has happened with more than just this sequencer, it doesn't always know where to put notes. So I might be hitting a note that I think is like right at the start of the sequence, like, but it thinks it's all the way at the end of the sequence at like 97% moved over, like, and then when I quantize that, it snaps that back to 0. So instead of a beat right at the beginning of the sequence, I have a beat on the very last 16th note of a sequence. Like, those are the things that happen to me with the quantizer. So yes, I can quantize. I just use it sparingly because it.
Because you play so poorly that it's literally closer to the wrong beat than the right beat.
Thanks, Robbie. But yeah, that's true. It's so true.
I mean, that's why I don't play anything live. I don't try to play a drum live. I don't try to play a keyboard live. It's all in the box. It's all canned, and you're gonna get. I mean, I'm gonna tweak knobs and make magic happen, but I'm not trying to play anything live.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What about you, Robbie? I mean, not Robbie. Bartok.
I'll do keyboards live. I do that a lot. You guys don't see it because it's hidden.
Oh, it's a key step.
Yeah.
The best keyboard of all time so far.
Yeah. So I'll whoa, it must be
Closing
sunset.
time. Yeah.
Let me fix that. But yeah, the key step I'll do live quite often. But the drums, yeah, I don't, since I'm not really familiar with drums and I don't have a solid background on that, I usually pre-program all of that. What I'll do is I'll do a lot of variations, which the Metron, kind of gives me that ability to do that.
Yeah.
Do you ever make Metron variations live? Like, because you have immediate access to all 16 beats. You can just instantly create a new pattern.
Yeah, I don't ever do them live because I'm too nervous about it. So I feel like I'm gonna mess something up, and I've tried doing it and I just forget it because I have to like really think like, okay, what button do I push, and I have to like push this one, and so the Metron I'm not that comfortable with. I watch some of the guys use it and they're constantly doing stuff live and changing it, and I'm not there yet.
Are you unsure about it because you're not sure what beats to put the triggers on, or are you unsure about it because there's like these key combinations you have to know to get in the right mode?
Both. So there's the key combinations that I tend to forget during a live performance, and then on top of that, it's what is gonna sound good, as far as the drum pattern. I have done where, let me see if I can get something loaded real quick. So what I have done live is minor changes to stuff, or yes, even now it's taking me a time to just load something in. It's going to be a little hard to see. So you can kind of see the brighter red ones, right?
Yeah, I can see the red ones. Yeah, some are on, some are off. I got that.
Yeah. So
pretty basic pattern right now.
Yeah. So what I have done is, done stuff like this where I'll have a basic pattern, and then I know, okay, I'm going to turn off the 2s and the 4s, or I'm going to turn off the 1s and the 3s. And that's kind of as detailed as I'll get for live changes. But a lot of it is, I'm really unsure of what's going to happen and how it's going to sound.
I mean, I'm the exact opposite. So, I mean, I'll do some stuff on the keyboard in terms of like synthesizer sounds, but for the most part, I'm pretty confident in drum sequencing live because I don't use very much variation in my drum patterns. I don't know what they sound like. But the reason I can do that is because the pyramid allows me to have sort of switch. I'm just vaguely pointing. Allows me to have, I can assign 2 different tracks to the same instrument. So I can play, if I wanted to, 2 different sequences at the same time to the same instrument. So I'll leave the one drum running, switch over to the second sequence, which will be muted, program in the thing, which I do have to think about a bit. But once I get it in there, I can, do some build up and then switch over, and it's magic. But that's the extent of me doing it live. It's not like I'm playing the drums in with my fingers anywhere near in time. So if you can do that, if you have the option to sort of switch sequencers for your drums, that's one way to do it.
I have the I use my dot, my Euclidean sequencer, and kind of like grids, you can just turn the knob up and get more. So I can do that for variety sometimes. But I typically use that for melodic voices. So I have some sequence going on underneath, but maybe I'm only triggering the actual note to the actual amplitude. I'm only triggering the note to play, once or twice per 16 beats. But then you can turn up the knob and get more hits.
It adds some variety. Yeah, that's nice. It's cool when that happens. I poorly use my quantizer to do the same thing. So like program in like whole or half notes, and then turn the not the quantizer, the arpeggiator. I'll turn the arpeggiator on, but the arpeggiator is set to like half notes first, and then I'll slowly crank it up, which isn't quite the same variation, but it has a similar sort of fill effect if you do it right.
Yeah, you can at the turn of a knob, you can increase the intensity or decrease the intensity.
And I could also add some randomness after that too if I really wanted to, but I never do.
When you do that live, do you have any issues of it multiplying but now being off rhythm? Because I have that issue. I've noticed, Robbie. I don't know if you have, on this black sequencer, if I have a pattern going and I divide it, it's now, it kind of starts that division when I change it. So if I would need it to be in step with everything else, I have to stop it and restart it.
Right. I've had the exact same issue. One solution is a reset signal, but that's kind of like using a sledgehammer on it, right? That's like
right.
Reset everything. But yeah, the stop and start, I've used that, or I just don't change it. I don't change it in that way.
Right. Okay.
If I need them to stay in sync.
So I feel like that's something that could be resolved via software update, if possible. Because
yeah, it should just be an option to, like, you should be able to either do it immediately or only change the multiplier when the sequence restarts.
Right.
And the pyramid handles this really gracefully. And the things I've noticed this on other sequences in particular is if you've got like a 1-bar sequence that you now want to make a 4-bar sequence, then things get sort of murky. But the pyramid does a really good job. So if I start with a 1-bar sequence and it's playing 1 bars and I let it play for 13 bars and then I make it a 16-bar sequence, if you look at the playhead on the pyramid, it's actually like on bar 13 of the 16-bar sequence. Like as soon as you do that, like so it still knows where it is, or roughly how many times it's played through. So it can always line that up to however many bars you need, I guess. And then same thing if you go back to 1. Or if I go to a 3-bar sequence and it's like doing funky out of time stuff, and then I go to a 4, it sort of snaps it to where it would be if it had been playing 4 bars the whole time. So I think that's something they could do with software pretty gracefully.
I mean, Voltage Block does the same thing. That's my CV sequencer.
Yeah.
You can manually pick out steps or arpeggiate through steps by pressing the buttons. And you can also change the divider or the multiplier by turning a knob, and you can multiply or divide up to by any integer from 1 to 16. But if you bring it back to 1 or take your hands off it, it'll always line up as though you hadn't fucked it up. So
That's so good.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
Those are, I think, modules that have been like, that's a module that's they've taken great care to make sure it's performable. Like you have a lot less. There's nothing stopping you from messing with it while performing because you know you can always snap it back to where it needs to be. Another thing that's interesting about arpeggiators is that I can't decide if I like or not is that all the ones I've used go from like quarter, like they alternate between divisions of 4 and divisions of 3. So like I'll go from like quarter notes to like three I don't know, eighth note on 3/4 to like eighth notes or like whatever the sequence is, but like it's always there's always some division of 3/4 in between 4/4 divisions. Like it alternates, and it makes it so you can sort of like slow things down, or I don't know. It's weird.
It makes sense to me though.
Like if I want to double, I have to click twice, right? Like I have to go really quickly go through those 3/4 notes. I'm saying all the wrong things, I know, Robbie, but leave me alone.
No, it totally makes sense. I was just thinking I don't have an arpeggiator of any kind like that. The closest I've done is I had a sequencer, and then I plugged audio rate clock into it, and the sequencer was 3 or 4 steps, and it was just an arpeggio that I programmed into it. But other than that, I've never actually used any kind of arpeggiator module, so I don't have any insight here.
Well, like here's an example. I'll do it with drums actually because it's a little easier to hear. I think. Let me set it up again to do repeats. I have to unmute the module, the step. So like you can hear it's doing like I don't know, 8 notes, right? And then if I go up 1 step, like I guess it's might be more noticeable with the kicks. Let me mute some stuff. Put a metronome on.
Yeah, see, it went triplet there. Yeah, I hear it.
Now you're at 16s.
Yeah.
30 seconds.
And then you get into audio rate. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. And when rotating through the knob to do that kind of stuff, it does the same sequence of those.
So you don't like that, or you do like that?
I don't know. Sometimes I do like it because, like in this case, like with the bass note, like that's pretty good, right? Like I like that.
Right.
But when I'm going for, like, sometimes I just want to double it really fast, and yeah,
it's hard to do 2 clicks reliably. Yeah.
Yeah. In this case, I'm using the pad, so it's completely controllable. But like a lot of the times, I have it on like a knob control that's doing it.
Yeah.
Glad you're enjoying this. Any questions? Yeah. So this has been a good one on drums. Actually, this is like all about how to mess with drums a bit.
I just wanted to say, you don't need a kick drum module. What you need is a trigger and a decay envelope, and then plug that into the volt per octave of an oscillator. Instant kick drum, you'll be happy.
Absolutely true. And it's a lot more modulatable if it's not a specific drum module usually, because you could do anything you want with it. Yeah, I turned this thing, like I was really eyeing the drummer from another mother, like I really wanted that thing, and then I turned that 8-step sequencer and this whole modular into a giant drummer from another mother. And it's exactly what you described. And you can add a filter in there too for some like extra resonant bass that makes your walls shake. Yeah, you don't need a kick drum. I would absolutely agree with that. Just need a couple of modules.
And that's basically what they are. I mean, they've just done the homework for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're really easy to get back to home. Like the drum brute impact, all analog, like it's doing all that for me, but like it's really easy to like, it's very performable because I can't mess it up too bad.
I love the sounds of that drum brute impact, with one exception. sometimes I kind of wish the snare drum was a little bit beefier.
The snare drum needs something. I
Can you play
I'm
that snare?
used to it.
Is it plugged
Like
in right now? Can you play it? It's like, well, that's okay, but it's just kind of
like
there.
this is as hard hitting as this snare drum gets. Like
That's it. That's the maximum. Yeah. There's nowhere to go from there.
yeah,
Like,
so like it's good, but is it like I don't know, like let's see, let's go to like a random A5
well,
or
and the
something.
rest of the drums on that, the rest of the sound. Oh my God, listen to that.
Hold on, none of those are.
But the rest of
hold
the
on.
sounds on that drum root are great. Oh my God, listen to that.
I don't know. That's all Rample stuff, but there's a Rample kit that has a really nice snare sound, and I'm just don't remember which one it is. But anyway, like even this like is a wimpy snare, but like compared to, but I do think the sound is really good. Like I don't think it's a hard hitting snare, but this snare is awesome because like I crank the decay up on the kick and the snare and I just get like instant industrial machine like, and that's like maybe too long on the decay, but like you put those at the like one hit per bar or even over 2 bars,
Right.
and you get like it's awesome. I love that I can super quickly go from like decent snare to like really long decay snare.
And I
it
forget,
does
does that have reverb or does it have a filter on it? I mix up because the one like I think the drum brute has one of them has a drive and one of them has a filter. I mix
right,
up
so the
drum brute
Impact
and
has the
okay.
drive. This does not have a filter at all,
Okay.
which is a bummer, but the drive's pretty good. And right now the drive, when I played the track earlier before this, I didn't have the drive on. Now it's on, and when I crank it way up, like it makes things gnarly.
Ooh.
Like gnarly. So yeah, I like the drum brute. I'd been making a mistake my entire usage of it up until like a couple weeks ago when I did this on accident, where I usually put the level knob like straight up and down as like just right in the middle so I can adjust it either way. But this thing, like right in the middle, it makes mostly pleasing sounds. Like you don't hear a lot of distortion. Like there's a little bit there. Okay, fine. You crank that all the way up and with distortion, awesome. So good. Yeah, I love that machine. If they make a tiny version of it for Eurorack, I would be so grateful, Arturia. Come on.
Yeah, it seems like an obvious thing to put in a Eurorack module.
Like, we know you like Eurorack because we've seen the key step and the beat step. Like, they have a crap ton of CV. Get to it. Yeah, that's one of my non-modular things that I probably won't get rid of until there's like a good alternative. But as far as synth sounds, I could ditch everything except for maybe the 2 chords. Though I like the microphone too, because it's just the friendliest little sounding guy. It's so happy. Speaking of arpeggiators.
Speaking of happy music,
Yeah.
that's all I make.
Yeah. Yeah, and another thing about those drums, like running those through filters, running them through the data bender, and like using its distortion, like those beef things up significantly further if you're into that. Yeah, I like drums. Everything with drums. Was that Duran Duran? Pretty much. No. No, I forget what I was doing with it, where I set the arpeggiator up, but it was to show my part or something. I don't remember. Yeah. I do think, as far as sequencers, the key step has my favorite with the spice and all that fun stuff, but not key step, the micro freak. That's what the sound was coming from. Yes, I would love a Not a pad, but a touch keyboard style sequencer and controller for everything. That would be just ideal for me.
Oh, so like if the Micro Freak was instead of being an awesome synth, if it was more of a controller or a sequencer type thing.
Yes, like
Mm.
if the Micro Freak and the Keystep had a love child, that's what I want.
The key step, but with the Micro Freak interface, that would be an interesting module. I don't know
Yeah,
if I would
because
like that or not. Hmm.
I might hate it when it comes to drums. I'm not sure, but because I use the Keystep primarily for drums, and I love it for that. Which doesn't make sense because it's a keyboard, but it's way more accurate than pads.
Yeah, I've never really used the beat step or the key step. I've certainly touched enough keyboards in my life, but I don't have a lot of experience with pads. But based on what you're saying, I guess I'm not missing much.
You're not missing anything with pads. Like they're cool on drum machines. Like the drum brute as a standalone instrument, like to sequence on or do anything else with, ridiculously awesome. Um, and the pads work pretty well for it. Uh, I just don't love it because almost everything I've had that has pads, they either have like size issues, so like that's a quality control thing where like the pad might get stuck down, not because there's something sticky on it, but just because like the pad's just slightly too big for the hole, and that wears down a little bit over time. But the worst thing is when there's dust under there and they get flaky, so when you hit the button down, instead of hitting one trigger, it's like two triggers really fast, which can really mess up sequences quickly, or controls quickly. So that drives me crazy. Thankfully, on the Pyramid and most of my devices, like they're pretty easy to get inside the hardware and clean them out if I had to. The Circuit is an example of somebody that, or a machine that, you basically need a hair dryer to melt the glue off the bottom to remove the entire rubber bottom to get access to the screws, so you can clean it and fix the
What,
pads.
what were they thinking?
You gotta hide the screws, like make it cool, like Apple or whatever. Actually, let's talk about Apple for a second. On one of their old
Uh-oh.
displays, the Thunderbolt, when that cable wears out, because it's that same deteriorating cable they use for everything,
Right.
there are no screws anywhere visible on this thing because it needs to be smooth in Apple or whatever. You literally like need to get suction cups, put them on the screen, because the screen's held on by strong magnets. You pull the glass off. Behind the glass, there are some screws. So you take everything, literally the entire thing apart from front to back, and then you put that cable in, and then do the reverse.
What the hell, man? Just it's okay if there's a screw visible. I know
Literally,
somebody built
no
it.
one is looking at the back of my monitor. Like, yeah. Anyway, make things easy to take apart. That's my,
Wow.
yeah.
I mean, that design is probably because they don't want you to take it apart.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, they absolutely do not. But the funniest
Yeah.
thing about it is like once you get it fully apart, to replace the cable, it's straight up like a Thunderbolt connector inside on a circuit board. So like they could have just put that port on the outside and anyone could change the cable instantly.
What the? Oh boy. I have, I don't buy into the operating system platform holy war. I think there's a time and a place and a reason for every operating system. I think there's a time and a place and a reason for every phone platform. That's great. If you're happy with your iPhone, if you're happy with your Android, whatever, if you're happy with your Symbian OS flip phone, great, more power to you. But
I don't believe you. You know why?
why?
I've heard what you say about MIDI. But I tend to be with you. I make fun of everything that doesn't make sense. That includes a lot of PC hardware, and because I think Windows actually does a lot of good stuff as an operating system.
Especially Windows 10, they made it harder to make rootkits. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And Apple, like somewhat the opposite, where I find their hardware mostly pretty awesome, but there's a lot of complaints I have. about both of them. Anyway, yeah, use whatever you like. It's fine. Use your Firefox phone from when that was briefly a thing if you're into that. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah, use your Windows CE phone or whatever.
I'm still on Palm OS.
Palm.
Palm OS. Is that even still around? Like, I feel like that's one that somehow stuck around. Maybe that's BlackBerry.
BlackBerry. That's another one that bit the dust. Well, it just became Android. It just became an Android distribution. That's funny.
Yeah, it's like, do you want Android that is really good at email?
Well,
Get a BlackBerry.
really, it was Microsoft Exchange 2003 with ActiveSync that killed the whole purpose of BlackBerry.
Yep.
And having the BlackBerry mail server to sync everything. Once that came out, that wiped BlackBerry out.
It was all about the keyboard. That's what made BlackBerry successful, is having that full QWERTY keyboard for your little thumbs to press and enjoy. And you know what? That keyboard probably rules because it's all mechanical keys that you can feel.
Yeah, it's a fantastic keyboard, but I remember that in order to for corporate, in order to have your email and your contacts and your calendars and all of that stuff synced, you had to have a BlackBerry server, and that BlackBerry server, there was license for all the users. And when Exchange 2003 ActiveSync came out, we completely got rid of all of our BlackBerry server and the annual license for all of that, and that to me is really what killed it. The device was fantastic.
I'm sorry, y'all. Welcome to What the Heck, where we talk modular and BlackBerry servers. Get with it.
What about the pager?
Okay, we should wrap it up with a question about modules or modular.
Yeah.
Is there and I got a question. Is there any module that you either have thought about or currently do have two of, because you're like, wow, that is so good, I need two of the exact same thing?
I don't know what you're pointing to, Bartok. You're going to have to say it.
Yeah, I've got the Trogatronic M11 VCA. It's a VCA, but let me see if I can get in here for you guys. It has these momentary buttons.
What do they do?
So basically, there's a switch, so I can turn the VCA off, and then it's activated when I press the button.
Okay.
So, it's fantastic for having like a bass line, and then I'll kill that bass line, and then just go like dun 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 dun, and just so the sequence is running, but I'll just come in and manually play that to add some variation to the sequence.
That's awesome.
Yeah, M11. So that would be an M20. Two M10 filters.
So, and yeah, that, it doesn't do more than that, but I love it so much that I had to get two of them. And then I've got two 1U, the IntelliGel little, what is it? The FRSs, I forget, but it's another touch control. So I've got CV or gate depending on what I connect to it, and it's activated when I touch it.
Yeah, I only know FRS as Family Radio Service, and I don't think that's what it is.
No. I don't have any. That'd be cool though if I could tap into that, right?
Yeah.
It'd be like the radio music module. Here, I'll look it up real quick. While I do that, do you guys have any?
Yes, is the short answer. And I don't know if I made the camera better or worse, but I'll just point to things and talk. Yeah, so I'm very guilty of buying two of things I like regularly. let's start with where the camera's pointed. Like these oscillators, I think are freaking awesome. They have a built-in tuner on each one, so you can see I've detuned that one for that bass earlier, but they have great sounds. They're pretty basic oscillators. I have 2 of these MS-20 filters, even though they're gigantic. Like this is like this is like 12 Euro rack filters or something. But like it's a very good filter because it has 3 inputs with a mixer, MS-20 clone basically. 3 CV inputs for the cutoff, meaning 2 of these have attenuators, so I can control the level of signal. The third one does not. They are awesome, very performable filters. What else is visible that I have? I have a bunch of ADSRs and mixers and stuff like that aren't as exciting. Those are more like functional things. So let's go down to the bottom row. I think, can you even see that? Like, not really. It's okay. You're just gonna have to imagine. But like, I have 2 input modules. Like they have little piezo's on the back that are normaled. So if I don't have an input going into them, they use the piezo, and I can use this as control. So that's why this one has the door stopper on it, because it's a great CV control actually. Like really, like this one, like if I push in just a little bit, you get like a super intense like wub sound from a bass if you've got it going. And this one I often use as a trigger for things like the rample. So those ones I absolutely adore so much. They make everything flexible and fun and interactive, and you can sort of bring real world stuff that's not very musical and make it musical. So like I really like those. And the one I'm considering getting a second one of is the rample, because that may actually be my solution. While not ideal, it might be my solution to have 2 ramples as a drum kit in my modular. It wouldn't replace the drum brute when I'm at home, but it would mean I don't necessarily need to bring the drum brute if I'm going places. So that's another one I'm considering, because I don't love any of the existing drum modules for Eurorack right now. Like there's some that I do like. They have great sounds. I think like the Queen of Pentacles is a great example, or like the BIA that you mentioned earlier, but they're all trigger controlled, and I want MIDI control for my drums because it's like one cable, and I can do a lot of fun stuff with the sequencer. So those are just some of the ones I have 2 of.
That would be a lot of drum sounds if you had 2 ramples. I mean, that would be like a ton of sounds, right?
Yeah. It's potentially 8, or if I put stereo sounds in, it's essentially two tracks per.
Wow.
And so I think that would more than cover my needs. But the problem I don't love about it is I do love playing with the pitch and decay, in particular for the bass drum. Like I love the decay on the bass drum. I love the decay on the snare, but perhaps I should I just instead of like changing the decay performatively, I switch to a different drum kit that has a drum with a long decay and a snare.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know. So there's other ways around that problem, but it does have some performance features. I find the knobs like really hard and weird, but it's because it's a smaller size and they have multifunctional controls. So like I hit a button and now all the knobs control like bit crushing, for example, or another knob, and now they're all on the filter, another knob, and another button, and all the knobs are on. I forget what else, like freezing, or there's a pitch right there, so I can't do some pitch, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm really uninterested in using samples. I don't have any samplers, but I have to be honest. The Rample and the Bitbox Micro, both of those made me think about it. Like I seriously was considering it, and the dog is really loving that toy. Wow.
I was wondering what's going on there. Yeah, so
I'll mute myself. Sorry.
Yeah, I was like, what's going on? Is lots of squeaking happening? Someone's got a squeaky chair. Maybe the modular is still on. I don't know. But
I thought that was you guys.
No. play this for a minute. I will in a second, Schmooster. I'm afraid to click that for just a sec. I want to sort of finish a thought, which is the Rample. I actually hate samplers. Like, they're super fun to play. They're terrible to add samples to universally. Maybe an exception is that Digitact, but I have not used it, and I don't necessarily want another box. So I probably won't get one. But the reason I think they're bad is because it's really hard to make samples. Like, when the workflows in current DAWs right now, or audio editing software, are such that like they don't necessarily encourage, like, let's say I make a recording of me whacking on random pieces of, I don't know, ventilation or something, and then want to split up into multiple samples. They don't really encourage that. Like in Ableton, for example, it's really easy to make that a drum kit by just like making a little drum kit, but like exporting those as individual files that are chopped up in a specific format, I have no good way of doing that. So I absolutely hate that about samplers. But with the Rampler, it comes packed full of sick drum kits of every genre.
Yep.
Out of the box, to the point where, like, yeah, I'll add some samples when like folks that I'm a Patreon of make cool sample packs that like require very little editing. Like, okay, maybe I need to change it to like 24-bit whatever, but yeah. So that's. I mean, I just hate making samples, I guess, is the problem. And the Volca sample was similar in tedium to get good samples on it. You use a weird phone app and audio in and all that.
Yeah, I don't think I want a sampler, but when I see you play the Rample, or I see other people use the Bitbox Micro, I'm like, it like makes me think twice, and then I go and look it up and read about it, and I'm like, nah, I'm good. But then I see somebody else use it, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll give it another shot.
The second you read something like 4800 kbps, 16-bit mono file, like, I'm out, man. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to have one camera showing.
Well, we had the star of the show up for a while. That was good.
That's okay. I'm sorry. I was looking at you the whole time, though, because I can still see all the I'm going to move that away so I don't have to do that again. Okay, what did you want me to play?
Okay, this is like,
No.
Man, you're rolling the dice by clicking this live on air. Jesus.
Copy. Well, I'm not going to play it live on air. I'm going to watch it on my computer for a second. What the... Copy. Okay, there we go. Thanks, YouTube, for being janky as F. It's just Mario Mathy. If you're not familiar, search up Mario Mathy or click the link. It's just a guy really into synthesizer with one of the best YouTube videos of all time. I'm not going to play it here because I don't want to take down notice or anything like that. So, and from what I know, it only takes like a fraction of a second of a clip that already exists for those matching software copyright holder stuff to mess stuff up. All right.
So, Robbie, did you have any duplicates?
Oh yeah. Where are your duplicates?
I only have a single duplicate module, and it's the Erica Synth Pico filter, which is like a Polyvox filter. That's a 3 HP tiny filter, and it just has this wonderful squelchy resonance, and it's kind of unstable, and it's really it's noisy, and I love it. And I got one, and I was like, well, this is the coolest thing ever, and I almost always use two.
That's awesome. Yeah. Unstable filters. Awesome.
I love when you crank up the resonance really high, but then turn down the cutoff, so you don't really hear the resonance, but you get this weird unstable sound. Ugh.
Well, yeah. It's creating this like, from my understanding, if it's similar to what mine does, it's creating basically a second sine wave sound that's causing occasional what's it called when two frequencies cut each other out?
Phase cancellation.
It's doing some occasional phase cancellation, which gives you that sort of unstable, heavy feel. Like it's heavy sounding when you do that. If you have like good bass on, like if you're using thin headphones like these, you won't hear much. But if you got good bass on, like it shakes. Like I'd be afraid to do that like live unless I knew I wasn't gonna blow stuff up. Yeah, totally love that. Yeah, another thing I've been doing just a lot recently is running a triangle wave out of the same oscillator that is going through my filter to modulate the cutoff knob. You might need an attenuator first because you just want a little bit of it, but that'll also make sounds a little nastier.
The triangle wave is an LFO or is it audio rate?
Audio rate.
Okay. Wow.
And if you're sending like multiple oscillators, let's say you've got a pair of oscillators or 3 oscillators going through your filter, go with whatever one's in like the sort of the middle range. If it's too fast, it's a little harsh. Too slow, it gets very fart boxy.
Instant fart. I like how there's just an instant fart button right there.
Oh yeah, built the whole machine just for farts. Anyway, fart box solo. Don't hear that on every channel. All right, it's well over. This has been a really good one. If anyone wants to be on next week, well, it's all yours because it's EMS. Because I'm not going to be here. You can do whatever you want.
What the EMS? Yeah, join the Discord.
Yeah, join the Discord. Stream some stuff. It can be good. It can be bad. Yeah, we don't care. We love it. Actually, I don't know that I hear a lot of bad stuff. It's usually my stuff. Like I listened to one of my tracks from the other day, and I missed the drop for like every single time for like 10 minutes, every single one, and there were a lot of drops.
On my last stream, I had a live mic, and I didn't realize there was a live mic, and you could hear like stuff in the room.
Oh yes, funny. Yeah. 2 streams ago, I think I did that. I actually only had the live mic on and not any audio from my synthesizers. So I was making like dramatic speeches through like my laptop mic, and with like the like sprinkler system on in the background and like shit like that. So that one I edited on my channel at least. It's probably still on EMS if you're into that sort of thing. Yeah. Someone was like, "There's no music. You're rocking out really hard, but we can't hear anything."
Yeah, you're talking a good mess about all these rich guys, but
exactly what happened. Yes, it was that one. I was like, man, I was so pissed off after that. All right, have a good week, y'all. See you in a couple weeks. Actually, I'll probably do some streaming. If not tonight, then like almost every night for the next week or so.
Woo!
Yeah, have a great time, man.
Stream. Oh, I'm gonna play us out real quick, right?
Play us
That's
out.
what I'm supposed to do.
Play us out.
Here,
yeah.
let's.
With live commentary.
Yeah. You know what? We'll leave the camera on, and let's see. Let's start with the good sound. Oh. No. I think it was this one. I don't even know where that hat is coming from, but okay. Did I like set a sequence? I don't know, it doesn't matter.
Oh yeah.
That sounds so good.
Very classic Hex 7.
closed hat is coming from?
There's just a mystery hi-hat sound. It's gotta be the ramble, right? Is it
The
ramble?
track is off. There's no reason there should be quarter notes happening right now. Alright, have a good week, y'all.